To Shamanic Sundays. I'm Kimberly Pinkson here with my dad, Tom Pinkson. And thank you for being here with us as we come together Sunday mornings to share the wisdom that you have gained and grown and been gifted in your journey working with plant medicine, indigenous elders, natural intelligence. So, would you start us off with a prayer of gratitude, please?
All right.
Thank you.
I'm grateful I have a voice. I'm grateful that I have a central nervous system that knows how to open my mouth and words come out. And I'm grateful to you, Great Spirit, the creator of all of our bodies, the creator of Mother Earth, the creator of Mother Ocean, the creator of the universe. Thank you for giving us this breath of life on this day. Thank you for the opportunity to experience the gifts of your creation. And thank you for giving us opportunity to join our hearts, minds, and spirits, our breath, our present awareness, opening to attune and connect with the deepest reality that we're all interwovenly connected with each other, with all it has been and all it is and all it will be. And may we use our time together and whatever you're going to bring through to open a doorway for more healing, more light, more love, more justice, more compassion, more courage, beauty, generosity, flowing through us for the healing of the sacred hoop. May it be so. Hope.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So this week we got a question about judgment and how to use shamanic tools to let go of judgment. And made me think of a book that an old friend of mine gave me. It said, How to Free Yourself from the Judge Within. I don't remember the author. I should have looked it up. But I definitely, growing up in ballet where you're never good enough, your leg is never the right length, height or length or extension, your angles, that definitely got drilled into me. And so I can definitely relate to that. It's a good question. So let's hear from you about letting go of judgment.
Well, I'd like to invite you to let go of the judgment that you just made a moment ago when you said, I should have looked it up.
Oh, yeah. There we go.
So that's there it is, just being aware with that gift we have of awareness, to be paying attention to the words, the conversation that's going on inside of us, the words we're saying. And as soon as, for me anyway, as soon as I find a should program running, I implanted a little electrode many years ago in there. So whenever I make an assumption or I hear the word should in my conversations with myself, stick goes into the spokes and stops the wheel. So wait a minute. If you're running a should, then that's somebody else's trip. You're running somebody else's trip. You're not being present to what's right for you in response to the dynamics of whatever situation you're in. And not much good's going to come out of that.
Makes me think of in parenting. I realized that when my son was pretty young, that should was not a good word. And I started trying to say, what do you think about? Or what might you want to try? And I do that with colleagues, but I definitely don't do it with myself.
Well, you can start doing it.
I can start. Yep.
That's the gift of being alive and present in the moment. Every time a breath comes in, it comes in totally clean, and we get to choose again how we want to use that energy, what thought forms, what identities, what patterns we want to put our energy into strengthening. So if you don't want suffering, if you don't want your heart constricted, or if you don't want your pipes clogged up, then put a little chip in there to go every time you catch yourself making a negative judgment about yourself or the being of someone else. A little alarm goes off. It says, wake up, wake up, wake up. You're choosing to put your energy into a thought form, a negative judgment about your being, or the being is differentiated from behavior of someone else. In that instant, you allow your energy to go in that direction to the negative judgment. Everything just clenches up, tightens up, and constricts. And of course, we know in constriction there's inflammation. So if you want all of that, then continue to put your attention and energy into judgments about yourself and someone else. But if you feel you've had enough suffering in your life and you don't want to be a part of contributing to adding more suffering into your life, then when you catch yourself making those judgments, everything starts, first of all, with intention. You have to hold an intention to, I'd rather experience inner peace and a sense of serenity and happiness and joy of being alive in the moment than suffering and constriction and fear and gripped and tight and inflamed. If that's your intention, then it requires attention to what conversations you're having inside your own mind. And when you catch yourself with one of those judgmental thoughts, pull the plug on it. Just notice it. Whoa, just got triggered into a judgmental thought. Just pull the plug on it. Got that out breath. Let it go. Energy being released that's no longer needed. You release a couple of ounces or a couple of pounds of energy of constriction and tightness and judgment. The more energy released in that way, the more openness, the more spaciousness there is for the next breath coming in that couldn't get through before because it was filled with that constricted energy. Now there's that more openness because of what you released. So you're empowering. You get an opportunity to empower yourself instead of to create a new focus of your attention. Whatever the judgment was about yourself, like Kimberly's example inadvertently a few moments ago, well, I should have looked it up. So you catch that judgment. I say, wait a minute, who says I should have looked it up? Who wrote the rule book that says I should have looked it up? I could have chosen to look it up. I could choose to look it up now. I didn't think to look it up then. Why? Because I had my mind was going in other directions, getting ready for here. And that, speaking of that son that she raised without the shoulds, he's graduating from college this next week, and we're going down to LA to celebrate his college completion. And he did really good. And he and his lady friend Anya, they're going on a trip to Indonesia, and safe journeys there and back, and then come back and start their quote unquote adult life. So
Next chapter.
Yeah, next chapter. So congratulations to Mom.
Speaking of chapters, as you just said, who wrote your should rule book? And I thought that could be a really interesting exercise to explore, is like write down what rules you believe in life, and then think about where they came from. And then are the sources of where those rules came from something that still aligns with who you want to be in life, right? And how you want to show up in the world. And if they don't, then that could be a great exercise of like crossing that rule, that should out, and finding some other new ones to replace them with. And then you literally would have like a visual reminder of like, I crossed that rule out. I don't need it anymore. Right. It'd be kind of cool.
And you can bring in a shamanic practice when you're letting go of energy to light a candle, activate the Tatavati, grandfather fire spirit. And if you have some sage or cedar or some sweet grass to light that, and then just cleanse yourself. Let that energy purify, cleanse, or help you release what needs to go. Always leave an open window or door. And then you're picking up some medicine from Mother Earth with the fire. Come alive with the fire, you might say, to help you cleanse and release and restore, coming back into instead of a constricted energy of flowing, joyful, being present, ready to interact with life in a way to open a doorway and bring through fullest blossoming, greatest good. And so what's one of the rules that you live by?
Well, I mean, I've got a lot of them.
What's one? What's one that comes to mind right now?
I mean, honestly, the first one that popped into my mind is like that. What about everything you learned in kindergarten is all you need to know, of like treat others how you want to be treated, and like I feel like I use that for not just my human relatives, but all my relatives. All the beings that I come across in my daily life, and really try to live that.
So that's a rule that you're aware of, was taught to you, And as you compare it to when you were little, and now adult grown woman cooking in the world, how does that rule, and you reflect on that rule, does that work for you now, or is that
Yeah, I think it's still a good rule. I still try to use it. I think I've had to learn to balance it with boundaries to take care of myself also, because for a long time I was just so like I have to treat others how I want to be treated, but often at the expense of my own health and wellness. So I've definitely had to learn to it's a both and. Um, yeah, if you're not taking care of yourself, you can't treat others how you want to be treated.
balance?
Yeah,
Balance, so important.
yeah,
Everything in life, find the balance. Everything's changing constantly, so don't go today on yesterday's answers, but pay attention to the information of what's happening in the field today. Catch those waves, and when you pay attention to what they're doing, how they're working, you'll be able to energetically become a surfer and catch that wave and see where it wants to go, and use its power to help it go where it wants to go, while you're using its power to have a good ride.
yeah. I'm curious, what do you, Dad, and our relatives out in our Shamanic Sundays community, do you find it harder to deal with self-judgment or judgment of others?
I don't find it actually hard to deal with judgment of myself or anybody else, because I've set up this practice that I've been working on for many years. Like I said, as soon as I catch myself making a judgment, if I'm making a judgment about someone else, then I'm putting energy into the thought system about reality of separation. And when I put energy into separation, because it's not true, there's no such thing as a separate thing, then I'm creating more tension and suffering inside myself. So I've set up a program, and as soon as I catch myself making a judgment about someone else, pull the plug on it. Remember, it's one of the things I say, remember to surrender to remember, surrender into oneness. Remember, it's all God. So I'm using the fact that my conscious mind made a judgment to help me wake up till I was asleep. I fell asleep in the false reality of believing in separation, and opened myself to joy, reconnecting with our oneness. That other person I'm making a judgment about is a manifestation of God, or the creator, or goddess, whatever you want to call it, of the universe, as equally I am. And we're connected on the deepest level of our being. We're connected. So when I reopen and wake up to live love now in the moment, that's what I'm doing, accessing consciously that state of connectedness. My experience of being alive in the moment gets richer, stronger than if my energy is going just into that judgment about that other person or about myself. And I think I'm even easier with myself, because I've learned to have a lot of compassion for the craziness of all the different aspects of who and what I am.
That's good.
So I just accept it as my humanness, whatever it is. Like, I'm a human being. I'm having a human experience and having a human feeling. The issue isn't what I'm feeling. What is that feeling trying to alert me to pay attention to, get my awareness about listening to the information of the situation, again, how to create a response, a relationship, a way of being with the truth of what's happening in a way that can open the door to bring through healing, light, and love, and joy, and peace, and creativity, and having a good time instead of suffering. I'm all for having a good time instead of suffering, and with compassion for all the people who are suffering in the world, all the privileges we have, and the importance of using our privilege to address the suffering and the root causes of suffering in the world. And that's part of a significant part of why we're here in this life. The Spirit gives us life, and I'd even say, from a shamanic perspective, we chose to be born in these times, these challenging times, so we could show up and do the inner work we need to do to be able to be channels for healing, light, and love into the field, instead of reactors with more violence and judgment. And judgment is a violence, because it causes separation and the heart to close.
Yeah. So we just got a question about, or a comment about, if we don't judge, then Hitler is as worthy as Nelson Mandela. Judgment, or surely judgment or discernment has a place, and I'm thinking it's what it's like more about how do you change the judgment in you so you're not adding to the suffering in the world. That feels like you can judge something as not an okay behavior that inflicts pain or suffering on, in this case, millions of people. But it's like, how do you hold that in yourself? I think that for me is the question. Like, I don't want to not have judgments because they help with ethical choices, but I want to not hold them in a place of pain for myself.
Well, good point.
Like, I feel like that's an important thing to differentiate. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think the hand in the glove, I get the image of a hand in the glove, things that go together, that it's important to discern the difference between behavior and being. So the example of Hitler, I lost relatives in the Holocaust. So believe me, I'm no fan of Hitler or the monstrous things that he did. And so I don't forgive his behavior at all. I judge his behavior. That's not okay. It needs to be stopped. I don't judge his inner being. He didn't come into the world with the Hitler energy. Whatever wounds happened to him that led to that energy, just like with Hamas people. They didn't do that terrorism out of an abstraction. They were on the receiving end of behavior that led to those acts. As anybody, we call it terrorists. And by the way, the English colonists were called terrorists by the English for what they did. So behavior comes out of needs that weren't met and wounds. And so if I judge the behavior and I do judge the behavior of Hitler or anyone who's hurtful to anyone else, I judge the behavior. It's not okay. You need to address that, but understand that hurtful behavior coming from them, whatever it is coming from their wounds. And underneath that, their being that they came into this life with is totally pure and beautiful and kind. And if I judge the being of Hitler, then I'm closing my heart to some aspect of my own being, and I'm causing separation, pain, suffering for myself. So I think it's really important to differentiate behavior, judging behavior, discerning what's okay, what's not ethically for your values, but don't judge the being of another person, because the being underneath their behavior, which they're not in touch with the beauty of their being because of their wounds, leads to the hurtful behavior they're doing. So to not judge the innocent, beautiful, shining light being that's underneath all of that may be, covered up with 100,000 pounds of shit and abuse, and so it can't breathe, or it doesn't believe it exists, it's struggle. But underneath all of that is the pure being that's in all of us, of infinite light and love. So differentiate judging behavior, yes. Being, no. Unless, like you said, you want to cause suffering for yourself.
Yeah. I think I agree with that. It's still pretty hard to imagine that there's a light being in some of the people in the world, but I agree that in there. Actually, I think of even like a very intimate experience I had with that was when my company that was all based about moms and people, women working together around the world, and my business partner that came into the situation committed suicide, and millions of dollars were missing, and the whole company went bankrupt. And I remember a publicist called me and asked me for comment, and wondered if I felt vindicated, because actually, sorry, I left an important thing out, but like a year prior, I had essentially been ousted from the company I started. And so there was so much rage and hurt and self-judgment and blame and, all this stuff. But when he committed suicide, I felt like not at all, like I felt like I still didn't respect, I was still, I'll use the word hate, that behavior of how he treated me, but I felt just sad for, the grief that he felt that led to that, the choices he made that led up to that. So that was a personal, very personal one.
Yeah.
In that regard. Lots of layers there I quickly covered, but we take in information quickly in today's world. So that can easily, that that taking in information quickly, we can get triggered really easily. So if you could lead us in a visualization to help us strengthen our tools to face whatever judgments may come into our hearts in the coming week, so that we can be the light and share light more, and also speak up for ourselves in loving ways when we need to, as we were talking about at the beginning of the conversation, of having boundaries within that too. So.
Yeah. So word immediately comes into my awareness of compassion. And I want to invite you to attune your awareness to this word compassion, Compassion, as if you're seeing it on a blackboard written in big white chalk letters, compassion. And just listen and see what comes up inside of you around the meaning of compassion, just allowing in your awareness to notice what thoughts or ideas or images or feelings come up about compassion. And I don't know how it is for you, and you can continue to explore your own sense or meaning of compassion. But one of the things that comes up for me is kind of a softening into an acceptance of, let's call it, the human compassion, human beingness. That our spirits, our energy, is living in an animal body with animal instincts and a reptilian brain that's set up to respond instantaneously to stimuli, to keep it alive under possible attacking conditions. And that's hardwired into us. And then on top of that, we have a monkey mind, which creates all kinds of stimulus factors to trigger our reactivity, given what somebody says or how they look at us, or something we see in the paper, or a person we walk by in the street and nod at and smile at just gives us a frown or doesn't even acknowledge our presence. So easy to get stimulated just like that in an instant. We don't plan to be reactive. Oh, I think I'll react with my reactivity pattern that wants to smack everybody and send out stink energy. We don't usually react, stop and think that that's the way I want to act. Maybe sometimes we do, but not most of us most of the time. But some stimulus triggers that reactive response. So when we're not able to practice preventative medicine by cultivating more calm and peaceful and gentle mind states, and some stimuli breaks through our system, so to speak, and activates a reactive pattern, then the compassion comes in with accepting our humanness. Wow, that stimuli just activated a response inside of me that wasn't skillful, that was hurtful to myself or someone else, with judgment, with attack, with stink energy, whatever. So we don't have power to change what we don't see, but the gift of awareness, when we catch, when we notice, because we're paying attention, we're being present to what's going on between our ears, the thoughts and conversation between our ears, we're able to catch in awareness hurtful judgments to self or another, or thought forms of limitation or negativity or blame or shame, or whatever the focus of thought might be that creates suffering, that's based on illusionary perceptions of separation, which causes suffering in and of itself. So to have compassion for the work we're trying to do to bring through higher levels of consciousness and actions, more skillful actions in our lives, and more creativity, more joy, more health, more happiness, more peacefulness in being alive. And when we get triggered into a mind state that's not any of those qualities, but we experience as negative and suffering, just to notice it, just simply to notice it, and have compassion for our humanness, how easily it is to get triggered into activity, instead of causing more suffering by judging ourselves. Oh, I blew it. It wasn't good enough. I can't get this. I've been working on it for 50 years and it still happens. It's like picking up a hammer, beating ourselves on the head with a hammer, instead of something loving, with like this shamanic uru, prayer arrow, gentle energy. Oh, you're a human being. Yeah, you just got triggered, and angered, and you said something nasty to somebody, and so forgive yourself as a human being. Go back and clean it up with the person. Own what you did. Go apologize, but don't put energy into you're a bad person. Don't put energy into identifying yourself totally in terms of that unskillful or hurtful action. The compassion, gentleness. It's like reaching your arms out wide enough to embrace the totality of our humanity, the fullness of our humanity, which is from A to Z. We're capable of everything under the right stimulus. So focus instead on how can I create a response to the fact that I got triggered. How can I learn from it? What can I see in the stimulus there and what it activated and where that program that came into being, where that was created, going back in time to see where it started and pulling the roots of it and starting to do healing work at that place with that little one inside of us at whatever age where that program of reactivity got started. So becoming aware of the suffering that comes from the negative judgment about ourselves or another in terms of our being, our deepest being of another. Remembering judgment about the being causes pain and suffering. If I don't want pain and suffering, let go of the judgment about being, come back into the deeper connection with your own essence that's connected with that other person, with all people, with all being, and open up to that interconnectivity and the opportunity in being alive to breathe in peace, healing, and let go of what needs to be let go of. And this is a way of softening into our lives, but with strength, inner strength, because we're in touch with what our needs are and what we need to be able to, in terms of interactions with others, what we need to speak up for and say that sometimes, wait a minute, I'm not okay with that. I'm not okay with being treated that way. Or and here's what does work for me. Here's what I do need to feel respect, and all of us need to feel respect in a relationship, and sharing that information in a way that's not judgmental about the other person, but just sharing your information about who you are. And if the other person cares about you, then they're going to want to listen to it. And if you care about the other person, you're going to want to listen to their needs. And then I was talking to one of my grandsons this past week about interactions, and we were looking at how the only win is a win-win. The only real win in interactions with other people is a win-win. If it's a win-lose, then everybody's going to lose. So always trying to open our consciousness to higher consciousness, not just ego, for wisdom guidance on how to listen well, how to speak for our needs, how to listen to the other person's needs, and how to use our creativity to create a win-win as best we can situation. So compassion is a key for being able to do this with acceptance of our fullness of our humanity, so we're not stuck in a negative judgment about some reactive pattern that a stimuli activated. Compassion, embrace our humanness, let go, release. Remember, you're not that behavior or what you just said or did, but you're way more than that. In fact, you're essence being in an interwoven web of oneness, of healing light and infinite love, unconditional healing light and love, which is the essence of our being. Wake up, wise up, come back into conscious attunement with it, and you're going to be having a very different experience of being alive in the moment than if your energy is just going into the judgment.
Good stuff. Thank you.
Yeah.
When you said about the only win is a win-win, my mind immediately went to sports, and I thought, well, that's not true. But then, if both teams or both opponents have played by the same set of ethical rules, and yes, I mean, I like many different games and sports, go back to some of our earliest civilizations. And I know in some indigenous traditions, like sports and gaming were really important ways of actually teaching ethics and like fair play, that, you can win the moment, but you both are winners because you played in an ethical way. So I just want to share that thought. And then I saw a comment about, just going back to the horrific behaviors of some people and there not being an excuse for that. What I hear you saying is that that it's like letting go of judgment is not about excusing a behavior.
Right.
It's about finding how you hold like peace in your own heart and seeing that underneath, like you said, all those layers of horrificness, atrocities, that atrocious behaviors, there's like a kernel of love and light in that being that they were born with. And I think that's why we're here on these Sunday mornings doing Shamanic Sundays, so that we can help folks ourselves too remember to connect with that light that we all are, and to hold love and light for others in our hearts.
Reminds me of a saying that Ram Dass said, and gratitude for Ram Dass in his life, Richard Alpert. He said, do whatever you need to do to take care of yourself, but don't put another out of your heart.
Yeah.
Do whatever you need to do to take care of yourself. You may need to say, stop that, it's not okay, or stop behavior, don't tolerate it, but don't put the person out of your heart. Then you're being hurtful to yourself. It's not one or the other, it's a both and.
Yes. All right. Well, everyone, do you want to share about your shamanic show coming up? Wisdom.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. Anybody in the Bay Area, I'm going up to Marin County the end of May. I'll be up there Friday night, May 31st at 7:30 at the Marin Shakespeare Center in downtown Santa Fe. And I'll be presenting the Traveling Cosmic Magic Mojo Medicine Show. And it's going to be a sharing of 60 years of the fruits of learning with working with medicine plants in a sacred way, and vision quests, and through song and story and ceremony and music. And we're going to have a good time. And if you're in the area, come on by, and you can be a participant in helping creating an opening to bring through healing, light, and love, and joy and empowerment for all of us there, and having a good time, so that we can polish up our stardust, go out in the world and show up and be the channels for healing light, for healing of the sacred hoop. So if you're in town,
you can put a link to buy tickets in your different places. We'll post links to buy tickets.
She knows how to do that. I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, you do. All right. You guys, everyone, thank you so much for joining us this week. Happy Sunday. Love and blessings to you all. And we'll see you back next week for next Shamanic Sundays.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Take care, everyone. Thanks for being here.
Oh.
Oops, I just realized we still have that caption out there. We're going to hide that. And thank you again, and see you next week. Take care. Bye.